Hello and welcome back, everybody. This is a new interview in the series of the Amazing Autistic Woman. I'm Tanya, your host, and I'm very glad to have you back. In this series, I interview women on the autism spectrum, showing their everyday life struggles, problems, and limitations. Autism is not something you can see, it's invisible, but the limitations we deal with can be really tough. And usually autistic women also, they don't have an immediate understanding in their environment, friends and family. And that's why I think it's really important to make these limitations visible to the world and also to make the autistic woman visible. I would love to make much more of these interviews. And if you find these helpful, please consider supporting me. There is a GoFundMe campaign I made and the link is below the video. Thanks. Now let me welcome today's guest. It's Neoli. Hi, Neoli.
Hello.
Neoli is from the US and she's a supervisor in the tech industry, and she's also the co-leader of this company's diversity, equity and inclusion program. Neoli, you told me that the autism diagnosis was a very long and excruciating process. Could you please tell us a bit about that?
Yes, I do think it's because of the culture I came from. Where I come from, mental health and certain medical conditions are not something that we talk about. And especially because of the lack of understanding in the medical community of autism itself, especially in women and young girls. I was frequently misdiagnosed and had to go through a pretty long, excruciating diagnosis process, which ended up not being doctors who found the answers. It was me. And my journey began at about 10 or 11 years old, having a floppy disk with the word psychology written on it, trying to find out what was that thing that separated me from all of the other kids. Um, And I experienced a lot of bullying in childhood and things like that. But the bigger struggle was trying to get help and assistance. They didn't really know quite what to do with me. I was naturally a teacher's pet. I would try to interact with a lot of the kids, and that did not always go well. It led to a lot of people pleasing tendencies. And when I was communicating my struggles or issues to doctors, they were listening and perceiving something different based on the information they had available to them. And even on tests, when it came to my final formal diagnosis on the journey, it was a 2-year journey to get formally diagnosed here in the US. The first test that I took, I scored borderline, meaning just right underneath by a couple points. And it's because those tests are catered a lot towards males and towards a lot of stereotypical traits that are found in males. Due to this led to many years of going through many doctors and specialists, gastroenterologists, neurologists, getting psychological care because of the constant medication changes that sends your body into many different forms of, at times, chaos. And it did lead to a lot of personal struggle because of the misdiagnosis, and then also trying to get help and then being told that it was my anxiety, that it was something that I could fix. I was sent to numerous classes as a child. I was hospitalized, and I am also a survivor of attempted suicide over 10 times by the time I hit 19. And it's a reality of the struggle of being misdiagnosed and going through that kind of misunderstanding, being told that it was a mood disorder, that it was something else, that I have a special condition called synesthesia, which allows me to receive stimuli from the world in a different way. It presents itself in my body in a different way. So when I listen to music, I see colors, I see imagery that was misunderstood for schizoaffective. or other bipolar or other conditions. And being on those medications that can actually cause you to go into states of psychosis if you are on the wrong medications. So for many years, they just didn't know what to do. It came to a point where they had me as an adult in the hospital and were trying to give me electroconvulsive therapy. And my parents fortunately advocated for me. I was an adult, but they came in and took me out of there. And I
Mhm.
immediately left and went on to be very successful for the next few years of my life because we found that that was not the correct treatment. Um, and during all of this time, I was going through multiple traumas and things, starting very young, for my very formative years at the age of as low as 2. And those were very difficult things to deal with because every few years there would be some extreme event. And even until after 20 years old, where I went through a severe domestic abuse situation, which is something autistic women are commonly go through. I survived that. And through that survival journey and healing process, which took over 10 years itself, at the end of that, I found out that I was autistic. And it explained a lot of what was going on beforehand in my life.
Mhm. Wow, that's a heartbreaking story, really. And when did you get the autism diagnosis?
The autism diagnosis I received I think it's been about 2 years now.
Okay.
It was a 2 year process beforehand. Like I said, there was a lot of testing, and each appointment here, you have to wait over a year. And in addition to that, you also have to afford it, which for me, at the time, I wasn't making as much. And, it was overall about $2,000 and just for that, not including all of the other medical care that is required to sustain me and help me function in society. Because, as I mentioned before, through the misdiagnosis process, I hit a wall where I wasn't sure if I could continue working.
Mm.
I was trying to go through the process of disability because my body was breaking down. My I was experiencing so many physical limitations. I would go to the doctor and they sent me to an emergency room. My heart was breaking, literally. And it was a very painful process and scary because I thought I was dying, and I thought it was the pain in my life that was killing me. And all along, the noises, the lights, the sensitivity, the migraines, all of that ended up coming from autism and for my autism and my condition, which is what is my normal. And that it was never, it is a part of that. It is complex. It is a complex scenario where you are experiencing trauma and physical and nervous system dysregulation. But as a result of long-term nervous system dysregulation, I am now here
Mm.
healing, fortunately and gratefully. I'm grateful to just be here. I turned 37, as you know, on Tuesday, and the average life expectancy for autistic individuals is 36. And here we are, uh, being against the norm. And I'm happy to at least represent that and be here breathing today.
Yes, I'm also happy, Neoli, that
Yeah.
you survived so many difficult things.
Yeah.
And did you find a way to, did you find to your normal? Because you were referred to this earlier. What's your normal?
My normal has always been keeping true to myself, my authenticity. It's the one thing I held on to, even when everything else was taken away from me.
Yeah.
When I had no food, when I had no clothes on my back, when I had no choice on what to eat, when to eat, when I had everything in my life honestly ripped away, or when I was being given these medications, when I was going through those physical journeys of trying to find stability in my life, it was my holding on to my creativity and my authenticity, knowing inside, somewhere deep inside, that I knew that this was not the right thing. Something inside of us tells us that we do not fit into this puzzle that the world is trying to arrange. Something always screamed at me in my pattern recognition, in my experiences, in my interactions with everybody. There is a veil that has always existed and that we cannot deny exists. But it's only when I connect with other neurodivergent individuals, or especially autistic people, that I've bridged that gap and I find that there was no misalignment in me. It's a misalignment between me and us and the world, because it's so easy to have conversations. And I noticed that even in our interactions. So that was very nice.
Great, yeah. What limitations do you experience due to the autism in your everyday life?
So due to long-term masking, I will say that it was a very long process. It began as people pleasing as a child. I would try to bring things to people or try to help them out. And even now in my profession today, that's the thing, is that I love helping. Helping is a passion of mine. Helping things work, helping things function is a passion. However, in order to fit into society, even to this day, I have to regularly even remember to smile or perform or open up my eyes when I see somebody, so then they know that I'm not in a bad mood or stressed out or too hyper focused on something. I have to constantly be aware of my surroundings and everybody in order to accommodate the world. And that's kind of the bigger thing here, is that due to these things physically now, long-term masking, which is the darker side, led to muscular pain, spasms. Those started when I was 16 years old. I began going to chiropractors, and even to this day, I get monthly massages due to the amount of tension in my neck and my back, just from bracing yourself, or even in your sleep, you begin to tense up in your sleep, or think about masking in your sleep and your face hurts. I have, TMJ. I can't even get dental work without having to prepare to not be able to open my jaw up to this much for weeks just for dental work. That's
Wow.
how strong the muscular tension can be in the body. I experience fatigue spells as a result of nervous system dysregulation. Stimuli can make your brain fuzzy. It can make me not able to think. It can actually cause me to have sleep episodes where I just completely will look like a fainting goat. I pass out, and it happened at a concert, with a full sold out stadium. I was asleep, and I only woke up from the voice of the artist's voice. And that is something that exists. I have a lot of difficulties with sleeping, and the biggest, most impactful one that I've experienced in the past few years, and has happened since I was a child, are neurological spells. And that is a part of that fainting, but it's also a part of you essentially are losing consciousness or feeling helpless. And I have an emotional support dog that helps me with that. He is trained in that, specifically task trained for that. And he is honestly what brings me a sense of safety when those things are happening. Otherwise, it also impacts your gastrointestinal system, digestive. I could go on forever, but I will stop right there, to just give you a few examples of how that affects the body.
Thank you, yeah. So, you have a dog, support dog, and that's maybe one of the strategies you use
Yes.
to mitigate the limitations. What other things did you come up with yourself to help you get through the day?
So aside from having, his name is Bruce Lee Wayne. He is, honestly, I wish, because of the stigma, I did not bring him into work for a couple of years, because I was afraid I would not get hired. I was afraid if I walked in with him and people saw me with him, that they would see someone who was not capable of meeting their standards. And now obviously he works with me, and I'm very grateful for that. And I don't have to, experience that anymore. But aside from Bruce helping me on my days, if I'm going into office, my car is my spaceship. I spend time in my spaceship. And when I'm in my vehicle, it's something that I really embrace, because I either listen to solfeggio tones, music, classical music on my commute to work. I make sure to have positive music and affirmations on the way to work. I have over an hour drive to work, so it's plenty of time. So it's over 2 hours every day listening to positive, kind of preparing my mind. And when I get into work, sometimes I'll sit in the parking lot for up to 30 minutes or more, mentally preparing myself for the day, because I know if I dedicate that time to myself, to regulate myself, and to sometimes even rehearse or plan, because that's a reality, is that no matter how much I say I want to unmask, I am still required to plan accordingly in my mind how my interactions will go with certain people, or how I have to manage my time in order to ensure that I'm making sure everybody's okay. Um, and in addition, I have a hybrid work schedule in which I have flexibility.
Mhm.
Before, I was stuck on the 9 to 5 standard hours because of my position and because of my role. I am essentially, I work every day. I'm on call every day because I manage facilities and commercial real estate property. For that requires some emergencies. But
Yeah.
because of that, it allows me the freedom to choose my schedule. And facilities for me has been a very great place to be, because it allows me to help and to have the flexibility, and you get to help and solve many problems. Um, Aside from that, I like to wear things like the loop earplugs are very popular. However, I have many varieties of these. These are known as concert buds. I wear them in office if I'm not wearing a noise canceling earphone in my other ear. Some people like the over ears, those are great. Even at night, uh, I take a lot of time of quiet as well. I
Yes.
spend a lot of time in nature. I will put my feet in the ground and just stare and talk to plants. I know that's not for everybody, but for me, connecting with nature is very important to me. It removes me from all the stimulation, and I try to get away from as much technology and noise as possible. So even if it's me staring, like I told you the other day, I was staring at just a little jackrabbit out of the window, or I watched the hummingbirds in the garden, that brings me peace. Quiet brings me peace. So those are the coping strategies that I have in order to survive. But I would say the biggest one for survival, along with accommodating yourself, is unmasking when you are ready. Thinking about what that means to you, looking at your surroundings, and remembering to accommodate yourself as much as you can beyond the mask, because that is what's going to help you remove it. That's what's going to help you take that off and be able to really breathe. Because taking off the mask felt like breathing for the first time. And right now, you are seeing me in my authentic self. I'm not masking in any way. And that is very rare for me. So, not many people get to see this side of me. So, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share this with you.
I thank you, Neoli. Cool. I also use a lot of affirmations, and to anyone who's watching this interview, I made a small self-paced course you can get for free with exercises and videos, and the link is below the video. It's called Tools for Auti Life, and you are welcome to get it for free.
That's awesome.
Thank you. Okay, Neoli, do you have a message to anyone who's watching today?
I think in the autistic community, there's a lot of controversy about unmasking. And I understand right now is not a safe time for everybody, depending on what country you're in, what supports you may have. I think some people don't realize that with autism diagnosis comes some dangers and some things to take into consideration. For me, I learned that there were certain immigration preventions for me going to other countries to work, or even receive support if I'm there. And that was a little bit heartbreaking. But I will say that the common theme I hear is shame. And the reason I speak up, the reason I am open about my story, my survival, even the good and the bad, and the complexity of my story is because I don't want to ever submit to shame. I don't ever want to allow that to dictate how I lead my life and how I continue to survive and move into thriving in this world. Because I feel like that's a cruelty against ourselves. That's self-harm to me, is to continue denying myself the
Yeah.
ability to live an authentic life. And for too many years of my life, I've accommodated everybody around me. And I think when it comes to authenticity, which seems to be a very important thing these days, I want to be a shining example, even if that means I'm thrown out the back of the dumpster after it because somebody didn't like what I hear, you know? Because no matter what, I will continue to get up, I will continue to stand, and I will continue to be proud of who I am, proud of my story, proud of my survival, even when during that survival, my biggest enemy was myself sometimes. And it didn't matter if the doctors weren't listening, I turned on myself. And living this life the way I do is allowing myself to provide for my past selves, to grieve them, and to show perhaps another younger person or any other person who is living a life behind a mask and providing them something to look at and be like, hey, maybe that could be me someday. Because for a long time, I didn't see myself ever coming out of the box. I thought I was going to hide forever, stay quiet and small, and I didn't know if I was going to make it. And that was not an option for me anymore. And I had somebody told me that I saved their life. And I think after that, it really inspired me to remember to let go of anybody who tries to shame you and make you feel small, and to stand strong, not only for yourself, but for everybody who came before you, everybody else who has been silenced, and everybody else who is not here today. Because that's something that I remember, and sorry, it makes me want to cry. As I lost a lot of friends and people who had to go through these things and who have felt alienated, and they do not have the voices to speak. And I see them suffer, and I see them be judged, and I don't want that for this world. So that is why I speak up. Um, thank you. Sorry.
Not a problem. I
Yeah,
also start to cry. But thank you, Neoli. It was a very powerful what you just said. And I'm sure that you're going to change the world.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It means a lot to even just have this conversation. It means a lot. I don't think people, I hope people understand that. I hope they understand what it means and what more they can learn, because there is a lot of wealth of knowledge and value and understanding that can help bridge this gap that exists.
Yeah. I'm sure we will hear a lot more in the future from you, Neoli.
And you the same. I look forward to it.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks for today, and we say bye to the US. Bye bye, Neoli.
Bye.